All right, this is the Cortez City Council regular meeting. Today is Tuesday, March 26, 2024, and the time is 7:30 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Linda, can we have the roll call?
Kiefhofer,
Here.
Behaven,
Here.
Spruill,
Here.
Rainey,
Here.
Ozzie,
Here.
Here.
Medina.
Here. All right, moving on, do we have approval of the agenda as presented? Or any changes?
I move the council approve the agenda for March 26, 2024.
Second.
Motion made by DeHaven and seconded by Dobry.
Behaven,
Aye.
Ozzie,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Kiefhofer,
Aye.
Spruill,
Yes.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to number 2 on our agenda, the consent agenda. The listing under the consent agenda is a group of items to be acted on with a single motion and vote. This agenda is designed to expedite the handling of limited routine matters by City Council. Either the public or a council member may request that an item may be removed from the consent agenda at the time prior to council's vote. I will ask if a citizen or council member wishes to have any specific item removed from the consent agenda for discussion after reading it. A, approval of the council work session and agenda minutes for March 12th, 2024. B, approval of the expenditure list for March 26, 2024. C, approval of a renewal fermented malt beverage and wine liquor license for Paragon Business Investments, LLC, DBA Gopher Food and Fuel, located at 2410 Fairway Drive, Cortez. D, approval of a renewal hotel and restaurant liquor license for Hunan Kitchen Inc., DBA Hunan Chinese Restaurant, located at 2561 East Main Street, Cortez. E, approval of a renewal hotel and restaurant liquor license for Ocean Pearl Cortez Inc., DBA Ocean Pearl Chinese Restaurant, located at 30 East Main Street, Cortez. And F, approval of a renewal hotel and restaurant liquor license for the Farm Bistro Cortez, LLC, DBA The Farm Bistro, located at 34 West Main Street, Cortez.
I move that the council approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Rainey and seconded by Dobry.
Dobry,
Aye.
Kiefhofer,
Aye.
Behaven,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Ozzie,
Aye.
Yes.
Medina.
Aye. Okay, we are on number 3 on our agenda now, public participation. There is no limit to the number of speakers, although the public comment will be held to an overall time limit of 30 minutes. Speakers have a time limit of 3 minutes per person, may only speak once, and may not cede time to another commenter. And a reminder that we do have a second public participation section near the end of the meeting. All right, I'd like to invite Lana Waters as our first speaker. And remember to start with your name and address and make sure that the mic's green for you.
Thank you for addressing the violations of the quasi-judicial hearing. I know you are considering adopting a statement that you will strive for strict adherence to this statement and have additional training. However, this corrective measure does not go far enough. Mr. Kiefhofer, a senior member of the council, having served 3 terms, 10+ years, acknowledged previously that he fully understood the judicial process and yet still directed an opponent of the applicant of the hearing to contact him on his personal email, which is a clear violation of the hearing process, and additional training falls short. I would also like to point out that at the last council meeting, Mr. Rainey and Mr. Kiefhofer did offer apologies for their actions, which were violations of state statutes, city charter, and other laws to hearings, but not once did I hear an apology to the applicants who did not receive their constitutional due process. I would ask, how do you right the wrong? While the implementation of committing to the statement that your attorney has provided is a crucial step towards addressing the shortcomings within the hearings, It is imperative to acknowledge that such measures often fall short of achieving meaningful reform. Merely tinkering around the edges of the system without addressing its underlying flaws is akin to putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. True progress demands more than just superficial changes. It requires a comprehensive overhaul of the entire process. You must go beyond cosmetic fixes and make transformative measures that prioritize fairness, transparency, and accountability above all else. Anything less simply does not go far enough in ensuring that justice is served for all individuals who come before you. Mayor Medina and Council, I would recommend a code of ethics and a conduct be implemented, as your decisions can profoundly and generationally impact the lives of individuals and our community. Adherence to a robust code of conduct and ethics ensures that you as a council and each board member, including those involved with P&Z, Parks and Rec, and all other boards, conduct themselves with the utmost integrity, professionalism, and respect for the rule of law. Codes are necessary to ensure that each constituent is held to the same standard and that every official be held accountable for their actions. Such a code provides clear guidelines to uphold equity, inclusivity in our community, and acting in the best interest and well-being of the public. There are guidelines in the SURSA handbook that each of you were given when you decided to become a council member. I do not know how you intend to remedy the damage that the applicant has suffered due to the wrongdoings of Mr. Kiefhofer and Mr. Rainey, but I would like to personally have my money of $3,222 returned to me for the core request fee, as citizens should not have to bear the financial burden of uncovering city's violations and wrongdoings. Transparency and accountability within municipal governance should be accessible to all without monetary barriers. Thanks.
Thank you, Lana. All right, I'd like to invite Susan Chemnitz.
Good evening, Susan Chemnitz, 511 South Cedar. And I don't know, I feel like the previous person that spoke read my mind or something, because this is exactly what I came to talk about. And it was very upsetting to me when I saw that we're gonna do some kind of extra training. I'm like, something really is wrong here, that a person doesn't understand when they're in a trusted position in a government, does not know that you cannot judge things until you hear all the evidence. This would be like if I went in and I'm a citizen and I'm going into like a jury trial, and I just talk to people and I make up my mind before I hear all the evidence. And right now, I think this really, if it was me that this happened to, I would be suing the city. Which, you sue the city, and who pays? It's always the citizens that are gonna pay for this. But now I'm thinking there was an out given. The two people could resign, but I don't see that happening. So, somebody has to take responsibility for this, and I hope that you don't get sued, but, if it was me, that's what I'd do, because you've given me out, and it's exactly like they said. This might happen if you were just elected. I didn't know, or I forgot, but after years of being on the council, that's not right. I'm sorry. Please do something about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Do we have any more public commenters tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public comments, participation section. And we're gonna move on our agenda to number 4, presentations. 4A on our agenda is the 2024 February financial statements presented by Kelly Koski, our finance director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In your packets this evening, you'll find the financial statements for February 2024. Not a lot of excitement has happened so far in the year since we're only in February, but I did want to make a note. There's one item you'll see in those financial statements that may look a bit unfamiliar, and that is accrued payroll expense. So every department that has payroll will have an entry for accrued payroll expense. And what that is at the end of every year, typically you'll have the payroll that happens in January that'll have 2 or 3 days left over that cover the month of December. So it's really just to true up the December numbers so that we are at exactly 12/31 of the year end. So we haven't seen that in the past because we were working on all of those prior years trying to get the audits done. So now that we're current, this really is normal. It's what normal should look like, and we're happy to see it there. I also, aside from finance, just wanted to make a note for you all. Tonight is the christening of our new AV equipment. I'd like to give a very big thank you to Aaron. He has worked tirelessly with the install crew. Next Level, our install crew is also here to make sure that everything's running smoothly so that they can see what we do in our council meetings and exactly how we need to have the system working. But I, for one, am very happy not to see the red line in the middle of the screen over there. Does anybody have any questions?
I'd say, like, just ask the audience at some point at the end of our meeting, if you're still here, let us know if I'm too loud or they're too quiet, or and then those on YouTube, can you hear us well too? We just want to make sure that we've got the volume correctly and that everything that's being said is recorded.
Yeah.
So.
We're monitoring you.
Okay.
And thank you to you, Kelly, for helping narrow down kind of the options, like help us get to that point. And yeah, of course, thank you to to Aaron and the team from Next Level helping us get it all set up.
I'm glad we were able to come up with a solution that worked and fit us well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. No questions on financials? All right, appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on to 5 on our agenda. 5 is public hearings, and 5A is resolution number 5, series 2024, a resolution approving a conditional use permit to establish a temporary mobile vendor on 145 East Main Street with the conditions of approval stated in the resolution. Presented by our contract city planner, Nancy Dosdall.
Yeah, I think it's,
Yeah, how do we get her?
there's been some changes.
Do we need a longer HDMI cable? It's a good sign.
Okay, let's see if we can make this work. This request here is the first conditional use permit requested under our new mobile vendor code for the Central Business District. So I think most of you will remember that we went through a fairly extensive process after the farmers market asked for us to allow mobile vendors in the Central Business District. It was the only area where we didn't allow them. So this is our first request under that new code. The proposal is a fairly simple one. Bell Beef has requested a mobile vendor permit to temporarily sell frozen food from a truck and trailer. They will pull onto the site and then pull off when they're not there to sell. The property here is at 145 East Main. It's next to Gustavo's here. And interestingly enough, it was the site that many people pointed to as a reasonable place for mobile when we went through that public process. I just got a close-up here on the property. It's a vacant lot, one of the few downtown. It has access off of the side street here, so they will not be directly accessing off of Main. The site plan here is very simple. I did take some liberties with our code on allowing this hand-drawn site plan. I'm going to tell you right now, it's a very simple request. They're going to pull up a trailer and a truck. So we let the applicant get by with a fairly simple site plan. The criteria for approval are the conditional use permit criteria. There is one thing I want to make sure we've got clear, though, before we start, because I had a slight error in the staff report. After the code for mobile vendors, we did not set a time limit on how many days they could be there. We went back and forth a little bit. I think the staff report references a 90-day limit. The city council, after a lot of discussion, decided that it would be best to go on a case-by-case basis and establish the time limit at the conditional use permit hearing based on the use requested. So this applicant does want, has time limits proposed. They would be on the property from 2 to 6, Tuesdays through Thursdays. They did not set an end date, but I'll get to that once we go through the criteria, what the Planning Commission recommended and staff's recommending. So the criteria for a conditional use permit is essentially, is it compatible with the neighborhood? I think when we revised this code, we were mostly concerned about food vendors and impacts on brick and mortar stores and restaurants in the area. There are a couple brick and mortar stores that would sell frozen beef in the Central Business District. At this point, we haven't heard concerns. The vendor is not a city. I mean, you don't do cattle in the cities, but it is a community and a local vendor of a local product. As far as other impacts in there, they're really because there's existing access off the side street. CDOT commented that they didn't have any concerns with impacts on traffic from this use, and it is pretty limited in time. And really, a lot of the other criteria don't necessarily apply, other than if we want to look for conformance with adopted plans, our comprehensive plan does strongly support local businesses and giving them opportunities in the community. So both staff and the Planning Commission recommended approval of the resolution. We've got our standard conditions on complying with all requirements of city codes, departments, and CDOTs. We're asked an additional condition that the applicant comply with everything that they promised to do in their submittal. And then that third condition is due to the requirement to state the time. Planning Commission went back and forth a little bit on it, but what they came up with was that the use permit would be valid for a total of 3 years from the date of approval, with a staff review after 1 year to ensure that there have been no issues or concerns with the use. So the idea with that is that we'll refresh it, should you approve it tonight, we would let them operate for a year and then monitor, see if neighbors are, there were any concerns with trash or conflicts with businesses, et cetera. If staff felt like there were concerns, we'd probably call it back up so that there'd be an additional public hearing. Are there any questions?
Who wants to start? Go ahead, Dennis.
It says mobile vendor business. was that changed? Did it used to say food vending business? Because I can see where a mobile vending business could be an issue just in the terminology. If somebody wanted to sell scrap iron or something of that nature, now we've opened the door because it's not a food truck, it's a mobile vendor business.
Now, the mobile vendor is the same language that has been in the code all along. We sort of talked about food vendors and sort of implied it as food vendors, but really it is more broad than that. I'm not sure somebody would sell scrap metal, but if they wanted to do it in the central business district, we do have this conditional use permit process to do that now. Elsewhere in the community, you're allowed to do it.
Nancy, can you say whether or not that would preclude other vendors from being on that same property at the same time? I know last year there was a green chili roaster and there was somebody selling like fresh fruits and veggies and things like that on that same lot.
Well, the permit we wrote is specific to Bell Beef. I don't know that it would preclude them from coming in to do more. We actually talked about this being a good spot maybe for a mobile vendor court. But if it got to that formal of we were going to have 5 different vendors there at all time, we might want to look at more improvements as far as maybe paving of the property, et cetera.
What, Arlena?
I'll make a motion.
Oh, no, I got more questions.
Oh, or is this
Oh,
public hearing? So we need, the public.
I just have a few questions, mostly about process. I mean, I think this is a great idea because, they're located out in the county and that gives them an opportunity to sell, within the community where there's more traffic and more people. And they've established hours. I guess what would the process be if they decided 2 to 6 isn't working, let's make it, noon to 6, or, if they wanted to make small changes, do they really have to come through us again, or can that happen administratively?
I'd have to carefully review the code as far as how small of a change they could make that staff could approve. Obviously, if they wanted to do less, that would be fine. If they wanted to expand, there are code provisions. I think it talks about 10%. So I'd have to figure out how that works with days or hours.
Okay. I think 3 years is a good idea. You just check on them after a year, and then if they're good, 2 more years until we really revisit this again. This might be out of our scope, but I did see that Gustavo's was excited about the parking lot being open for parking, so I just hope that there's no conflict with the 2 businesses, that they can both share this lot. I'm assuming that the owner of this lot has worked that out, but...
They've given permission for Bell Beef. I don't know anything about extra parking.
Okay. And then... in terms of a site plan, I think that's a good point of something small like this shouldn't have a full survey plat. I mean, that's an expensive site plan. And I'm fine accepting the hand-drawn ones, but where is that medium? Where can we find, can someone use the GIS map and draw on that? Can staff assist with that? Or, how do we kind of create some medium standards around that?
Yeah, I think that if it wasn't such a small use, I probably would have asked for, they did add dimensions on there. They tried. There is a photo of the trailer in the submittal. But I try and work with applicants. We've never done the site plan for them. And I think that's probably going too far.
Okay.
So I tend to go, can you do better? Planning Commission was not happy with this site plan, so I think we will absolutely try and get it better.
Okay, and figure out kind of for the next applicants too, but...
this applicant was concerned about the amount of process that we had them go through, and it is a very small use. for the amount of process that they went through. So I had to kind of agree on that.
Yeah, I feel like, because this is our first time actually going through the process that we established, and I would like to see more conversations kind of as we work through these about like how can we really better like streamline this, you know, and when is it really necessary to come to us versus you just internally approved, but we'll get there. So then my last question is this, this criteria, is this 1 through 6, is that just kind of our general criteria for a conditional use?
For any conditional use
Okay, because it
permit.
seemed, it doesn't really accommodate
It does not.
established permanent structures. So I hope that in our update, we kind of address this.
We have asked about code provisions for temporary uses, so hopefully that will come up.
Okay, great. I just wanted to bring that up for you guys, so. All right, that's all I had. Oh, yes, this is a public hearing, sorry. So, I'd like to open this up for public comment, if anyone from the public would like, or do we have the applicants here tonight? Would they like to speak before I open it for public comment? Okay, great. It's not a great button, sorry.
Martyr. My name is Scott Bell. I'm with Bell Beef. My son and I started this business about 5 years ago. I've had cattle for numerous years here in the county, and we decided to put in a store out on County Road M, and we just wanted more exposure, and that's why we're asking to get into town so that we can have a little more exposure to our products. And we do just sell frozen meat, so that's all that we'll be selling through the, with the trailer at this time. And we will take good care of the property. We have a nice sign display made up for it. We'll bring the truck and trailer in and then remove the trailer, you know, at the end of the day. So we want to do it in a professional manner, make it look nice. So it's conducive to our business too, as well as the city. So, is there any questions that you have for me?
I don't think so, but we look forward to, if this is approved, seeing you out there.
Thank you.
All right, well then, any public comment for this public hearing? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing section. And then do we have any more last minute comments or a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that council approve resolution number 5, series 2024, a resolution approving a conditional use permit to establish a temporary mobile vendor on 145 East Main Street with the 3 conditions listed in the resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Yazzie and seconded by Dobry.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Buffer,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Rule,
Yes.
Haven,
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, I didn't hear my name. All right, we're working out the kinks of this system. So we're going to move on to 5B on our agenda, a new retail liquor store application for Elevated Liquors LLC. So this is a public hearing for a new retail liquor store liquor license for Elevated Liquors LLC, DBA Elevated Liquors, located at 530 North Broadway, Cortez, presented by Donna Murphy, our Deputy City Clerk.
Good evening, Mayor Medina and Council. Tonight we have a new application for a retail liquor store license to be located at 530 North Broadway in Cortez. The applicant is in the audience tonight to present their petitions, as well as Chief Knuckles, who will be giving his report, which was included in your packet for your review. First, we will swear in both parties before they give their testimony. And then staff also is requesting that council approve the retail liquor store license and ask that specific statute is stated in your motion. So first of all, Chief Knuckles, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you will give before this council shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. As usual, I'll read this verbatim for the record. Dated March 4th, 2024, to Cortez City Council. Subject, report concerning an investigation for a liquor store license to be granted to Elevated Liquors LLC. The address is 530 North Broadway, Cortez, Colorado, 81321. I, Vernon Knuckles, has been duly appointed and directed by the Cortez City Council, Montezuma County, and the state of Colorado to investigate the above applicant and to state the official position of the Cortez Police Department. Do report the following. 1. Contacted the City of Cortez Planning and Zoning Office and spoke to Rachel Marchbanks. Rachel indicated that the zoning regulations do allow a liquor store license as a permitted use according to the Schedule of Land Use Code, Section 305A. 2. Public notice was given by the posting of a proper sign on February 8th, 2024 on the property described in the application. A photo of the public notice is attached to this report. Required notice will be published in the Journal on March 6th, 2024. 3. There is a business in that same 3. There is a business that has the same type of liquor license in the immediate area. 4. A poll of the surrounding neighborhoods and businesses within the neighborhood was taken to obtain an opinion on granting this liquor license as applied for by the applicant. All persons contacted were advised of the time and place of the public hearing and were asked, do you have an opinion on this liquor license being granted? The following are the results of the poll. A, 27 in favor of. B, 14 against. C, 8 no opinion. 5, the location complies with the Colorado Liquor Code rules and regulations. The location does not create any known public safety issues or endanger public health. 6, a copy of this report was delivered to the applicant on January 9th, 2024. Signed by me, Vernon Knuckles, Chief of Police.
Thanks, Chief.
And now that I'll ask the applicant to come to the podium. So, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you will give before this council shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. So now you can just talk to them about your business and provide those petitions.
Good evening. I'm Cole Clark, owner of Elevated Liquors and Elevated Holdings. There's a few, so the in favor for, and I went straight to the business owners around me after I got from Officer Vern that were against it. So I went and addressed those people that were against it, and I told them what we were doing and everything. So we cleared up a few of those, which was Abashan paint. I think it's custom paint. So I talked to all of them, and they actually signed an in favor for after I had talked to them about it, which I couldn't get a hold of anyone else. Those were the people that I knew that were against it. So after talking to them, everything moved forward. But yeah, we're just opening a liquor store, which is pretty straightforward.
Is that building currently vacant? Or I know there was business in there, but did it close a while ago?
Yeah, it was closed April 23rd of 2023, so it was vacant, yes.
Okay. Great. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Medina, he has purchased the building, so it's not a lease or anything. He's actually purchased the building and really cleaned it up and made it very nice compared to what was
And there's adequate parking.
Yes.
Cool.
Well, there's 3 parking spaces in the front, and then there would be 4 in the rear. We do have a drive-through that we're wanting to access through the alleyway, which I was told from Sean Canada that wouldn't be an issue at this time, so.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll open this up to open the public hearing portion of this. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to speak for or against? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing section.
Thank you, Council.
Okay. Any more questions or discussion, or do we have a motion?
I just want to note that this is probably the biggest split I've seen in terms of a petition for a business. Just want to note that, and I'm just curious as to like how many of those against were residential versus business. And maybe that's something that Chief Knuckles can answer.
Yeah, don't know.
Or maybe it's not something that could be answered.
Yeah.
I apologize, Council.
No worries.
I don't know. They're just on here by name, and
Okay.
without asking them individually if it was a business decision.
Right.
Or individual.
Well, I do think it's great that you tried to contact the people who were against to talk with them.
Yeah, because it's hard to know if it's just inherently the nature of a liquor store that people are against, or if it's the traffic, or, you know, but you've met all the requirements, so. Right.
I move that after considering the reasonable requirements of the neighborhood, the desires of the adult inhabitants, and the necessity of any restrictions on the license, the good moral character of the applicants, and compliance with all provisions of CRS 44-3-301 2A and 44-3-312 2A, City Council approve a new retail liquor store liquor license for Elevated Liquors LLC DBA Elevated Liquors located at 530 North Broadway, Cortez.
Second.
Motion made by DeHaven and seconded by Yazzie.
Rainey.
Aye.
Spruill.
Yes.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Kiefhoffer.
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our agenda. Number 6 is unfinished business. We have none tonight. So we're going to move on to 7 on our agenda, new business. 7A is ordinance number 1326, series 2024. A first reading on ordinance approving an application for rezoning of a .66 acre parcel, the address of which is identified by Montezuma County as TBA Driscoll Street, AKA Cornet's amended lot 1 through 5, block 6, and east 15 feet, lot 6, and Cornet's all right, the legal description for it, from R2 residential multifamily to mobile home or manufactured home, residential manufactured home district, and set for second reading and public hearing on April 23rd, 2024. Presented by Contract City Planner Nancy Dosdall.
Thank you. This is a request for rezoning. The process is a little confusing, so I want to go over it a little bit. The request here tonight is a request for public hearing. So all we're asking of the council tonight is to pass an ordinance and set the public hearing for April 23rd. So there won't be any discussion on the merits of the project tonight. It's really, I'm going to introduce it and ask the city council whether they'll consider setting the public hearing. It does not, if they do set the public hearing, it doesn't obligate them to approve it on the 23rd. It'll be a quasi judicial hearing. So all evidence will be taken at that meeting on the 23rd. I do want to just introduce it though, so that everyone understands what the request is. As the mayor was trying to explain, the legal description's a little tough to understand. The infrastructure is not fully built out in this location, so an address of Driscoll Street is somewhat confusing. It would actually be served most likely off of Alma, I believe. So I want to show you the location here so everyone understands where it is. And that understand the proposal, which is a request from the applicant with permission of the landowner to rezone from R2, which is the aqua color on our maps, to manufactured home, which is this tan color on the maps. There's very little difference between the R2 and the MH zone. But I did want to highlight that just so everyone understands what the request will be. They have almost identical densities. They allow multifamily uses. The major change is that R2 zone does not allow manufactured homes, manufactured home parks, manufactured home subdivisions. But it does allow the same multifamily uses that the MH does. We'll go over at the public hearing the reasons for the action. At this point, I think I'll keep it super short unless you have any questions. Maybe caution you because this is confusing and it's tempting that now that it's brought up in front of the public and in front of you, you still need to make sure that you're hearing on the 23rd. You vote only on what you hear at that hearing so that everyone has a fair meeting. I'd encourage you to go visit the site, but please, we want to make sure that you're not talking to the neighbors or
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I would like to interject. I do not encourage you to visit the site. If you want to visit the site, I would organize it as a group visit and get the applicant to appear and then put it on the record that you did visit, because otherwise each one of you is going to have to, that visits the site is going to have to mention at the public hearing when you went, what you saw, what your observations were. It's going to extend the public hearing, and that's an ex parte contact, which, you know, we're not just concerned about considering what occurs at the public hearing, but as you know, there's a prohibition against ex parte contacts at a quasi judicial hearing, which this public hearing will be. So I would caution you strongly to avoid, you know, if you drive by it, that's one thing, but if any of your decision-making is going to be based on what you observed in your visit, then you need to specifically and in very much a lot of detail explain what you observed and why that's impacting your vote at the public hearing. Because it may seem counterintuitive to not visit the site, but it lends yourself to an ex parte contact that can be controversial and cause problems. So I would encourage you to consider that. Thank you.
Don't want to disagree with our attorney, but neighborhood context is important in this case. So if you're not familiar with the neighborhood, maybe do your drive-by, disclose it at the meeting. It will come up at the public hearing. We got distracted. At this point, I think we're just ready to recommend that you look at setting that public hearing for April 23rd.
Thanks, Nancy. Do we have any questions for Nancy, or do we want to set the public hearing?
I move that council approve on first reading ordinance number 1326, series 2024, an ordinance approving an application for a rezoning of a .66 acre parcel, the address of which is identified by Montezuma County as DBA Driscoll Street, AKA Coronet Sub AMD Lot 1 through 5 Block 6 and E, 15 feet, Lot 6, and Coronet Sub AMD Lot 7 through 10 Block 6, recorded by B369, P66, and B454, P805, from R2 Residential Multifamily to MH Residential Manufactured Home District, and set for a second reading and public hearing on April 23rd, 2024.
Second.
Motion made by DeHaven and seconded by Yazzie.
Kiefhoffer.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Aubrey.
Aye.
Rule.
Yes.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we are going to move on to 7B on our agenda, which is the purchase of 2 new air compressors for the water treatment plant, presented by Brian Peckins, our Director of Public Works.
Madam Mayor, City Council, the Public Works Water Division needs to replace the 2 air compressors at the water treatment plant. The current air compressors have been in service for 17 years. Both air compressors have exceeded their life expectancy. The compressors that are currently being used no longer produce a sufficient volume of air independently to keep up with the demand of the membrane treatment plant. Therefore, both compressors need to run simultaneously to keep up with demand. City staff put together a set of specifications and advertised on BidNet. There were 72 contacts for 2 new 10 horsepower tank-mounted air compressors with air dryers. All of the compressors that were bid come with a 3-year warranty period. Bids were opened on March 13th, 2024, with the following results. Colorado Pond and Lake, $25,143.70. Compression Leasing Services, $25,000, Cullum and Brown, $32,612. Eaton Sales and Service, $27,454. Kubat Equipment, $27,454.90, and Remco at $24,050. Taking into consideration price and availability, city staff recommends purchasing 2 new Champion model tank-mounted air compressors with sound attenuating enclosures, 120-gallon tanks, and attached air dryers from Remco for a total amount of $24,050. The purchase is fully covered through funds in the Water Capital Outlay account. Staff recommends that council approve the acquisition of 2 new air compressors for the water treatment plant for a total amount of $24,050. Subject to any questions?
Was this a planned replacement, and what's the general lifespan of this type of equipment?
Well, it's 30,000 hours, which has been exceeded.
Okay.
One compressor has been used for 47,000 hours.
I see some of the bids are close. I just wanted to make sure was our local preference taken into account, or any of the bidders local that would affect that?
Hi, Randy Hunt, Water Plant Superintendent. I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
I was just asking if we have a local preference as part of our procurement policy, and I was just wondering if any of the bidders are local, if that was something that we would have to take into account.
We had no local bidders for this. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
How are you going to plan for the redundancy then? Because, inherently having them fail at the same time and replaced at the same time, always being on the same schedule, that kind of doesn't alleviate that offset of,
So the way the compressors are set up, they're set up to run in a lead lag situation. So one compressor runs continuously. Once it shuts off, the other one turns on. So there's always a backup in place.
okay.
Right now, the way they're running is both compressors have to run to keep up with the demand. So we're left with no other compressors. We would have to rent a compressor if we don't replace these, if we were to lose one now.
Okay. So one is gonna accumulate hours slower, or like not at the same rate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure, just because, you know, in the few years we've been here, we've seen a lot of these things that are well past their lifetime. And I just want to make sure that we are, you know, not only replacing all this stuff, but now getting on these schedules so that, you know, we aren't just always in this place.
Yeah, we plan to replace these. These are on our replacement schedule.
Okay,
And they're
great.
due.
Madam Mayor, I move that council approve the acquisition of 2 new air compressors for the water treatment plant from Remco for a total expenditure of $24,050.
Second.
Motion made by Dobry and seconded by Rainey.
Dobry,
Aye.
Kiefhoffer,
Aye.
Brule,
Yes.
Rainey,
Aye.
DeHaven,
Aye.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, thanks for being here, Randy. Okay, we're gonna move on to 7C on our agenda, award of the 2024 concrete cost share project.
Okay, after reviewing the cost share applications and needed areas of repair, Public Works staff compiled bid documents and advertised the project on the city's website, BidNet, with 631 contacts, and in the Cortez Journal. 5 sets of plans were picked up from the service center by interested parties. The bid opening was held on March 12, 2024, with 2 bids received. K&K Concrete for $349,816, and Daniels Concrete, Dolores, Colorado, $403,313.55, with a engineer's cost estimate of $393,605. The City of Cortez provides an annual sidewalk cost share program to help residents and business owners either install new sidewalk or replace deteriorated sidewalk on their property. The program encourages and promotes improvement of our public walkways by offering a 50% cost share agreement with local residents and businesses. This year's project includes removal and replacement of approximately 667 square yards of damaged concrete, 352 square yards of new concrete sidewalk, 1,141 linear feet of curb and gutter, 118 square yards of ADA curb ramps, 12 light pole bases, complete in-place poured caissons with conduit and miscellaneous other concrete work throughout the city. The Street Capital Fund has a total of $388,639 budgeted for concrete, curb and gutter replacement, and downtown improvement work this year. There are 8 citizens and or businesses that are participating in this year's concrete cost share project. Staff recommends that the 2024 concrete cost share project be awarded to K&K Concrete at a bid price of $349,816. This is approximately 11% lower than the engineer's estimate and approximately $40,000 under the engineer's budget. According to the city's local vendor preference, Daniels Concrete, a local bidder, would have to have been within 2% of K&K's bid to receive preferential treatment, which they were not. Subject to any questions?
So with the concrete cost share, the 8 people who are gonna pay 50% of whatever the cost is for their particular, I'm assuming that will then, like right now, of course, we have to bid for the total cost of concrete, and then we get a little bit money back from those 8 property owners?
Mhm.
Okay. Do you know how much money that's gonna be, or is that kind of estimated when the job happens? Thanks, James.
James Bestis, Inspector for Public Works. We only get 50% back of the sidewalk replacement. The curb and gutter, the city pays for 100%. So it all just depends upon the homeowners and how much we have of square yards that what we would get 50% back on.
Okay, so it's probably a pretty small amount compared to,
Yeah, it's minimal compared to, I mean, we're doing some Main Street improvements. We're doing the First Street parking lot. We got an ADA on Empire and Chestnut. There's quite a few other projects that are involved in this, so
okay,
it's minimal.
great, thank you. Do you feel like we advertise well enough to participate in the concrete cost share? Or if we were flooded with more applicants, would that be a bigger, like too much of a burden? I guess kind of what's our goal of how many do we want to participate? Because I think it's great we pay for the curb and gutter. That lowers the cost to the homeowner. And, we struggle with walkability in our community and we want to encourage more sidewalks.
Yeah, normally this is about an average. We usually get anywhere from 7 to 10 a year. I think it's advertised pretty good. I mean, it's on the website, and it's, we advertise quite a bit. Like if I'm replacing something in a neighborhood, I'll go door to door and hang some door hangers, to let them know what we're doing and that if they're interested. But this is about an average of what we get for applicants.
Okay, would it be a burden if that number doubled one year?
No, we would just do less city projects. We would do the residential properties first. That would be put into the bid first, and then the remaining would go to city projects to improve the walking surface or curb and gutters and ADAs.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, any more questions for Public Works team or?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that council accept the bid and award the 2024 concrete cost share project to K&K Concrete at its bid price of $349,816.
Second.
A motion made by Yazzie and seconded by Dobry.
Spruill,
Yes.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Kiefhoffer,
Aye.
Haven,
Aye.
Dina.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to 7D on our agenda. CML letter to support partnership, not preemption. CML is the Colorado Municipal League. So presented by Drew Sanders, our city manager.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. That is correct. The Colorado Municipal League is requesting our support in the form of a signature from our mayor to sign on to a letter to our state legislature that is encouraging them to engage more in partnership with us, especially home rule communities, versus engage in preemption. And I'll be gentle here, the perception has been for the last couple legislative sessions that there has been an all-out assault on home rule, and trying to, especially in the when it comes to housing regulations and legislation. And the reality is that home rule, including us, has either met or exceeded any sort of legislative attempt to force us to do more. What CML is trying to do on our behalf and other home rule municipalities is to have them engage in more partnerships with us, because realistically we want to meet or exceed what they think they can achieve. And we think that partnership is more effective. So I'm encouraging the council to allow the mayor to sign this letter that will go as part of it. Be a joint letter that's signed by many, hopefully, municipality that will encourage the legislation to work a little closer with us.
Does council have any questions about it or?
No, I was just going to say I appreciate the work that CML is doing on our behalf. I think having cooperation instead of regulation is really important in the partnership with the state. So I definitely would approve of the mayor signing this letter on our behalf.
Thanks, Robert.
If nobody else has anything, I'll make a motion then. I move that council authorize the mayor to sign the online CML letter to the Colorado General Assembly to support partnership, not preemption.
Second.
Motion made by Dobry and seconded by Sproul.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Buffer.
Aye.
Haven.
Aye.
Sproul.
Yes.
Rainey.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. Thank you, council. All right, we're going to move on to 7E on our agenda. It's a position statement for the Cortez City Council regarding compliance with cause hearing rules. I feel like my mic keeps going in and out. Presented by Patrick Coleman, our city attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council. If you'll recall, back in February, a member of the public expressed concerns about some potential violations of the quasi-judicial rulemaking or rules concerning quasi-judicial hearings. As a result of that, council met in executive session to receive some legal advice and ask questions and discuss the various issues involved in the situation raised by the public. In response to that, I drafted a proposed statement that was read into the record for council's consideration at the last meeting, and received some additional input from council. The two primary issues that were you requested changes involved, one, that you wanted to be sure that the Planning Commission was mentioned in this as well, and that the additional training would also be applicable to the Planning Commission. The other issue was that you wanted the staff to try to inform council and the Planning Commission at the earliest possible time of an upcoming quasi-judicial hearing, so that there will be no question of whether or not you have to limit your ex parte contacts on a certain application. And I included the language regarding those two issues in the statement that's before you. I will say that we've already done a training with the Planning Commission on quasi-judicial decision-making, and we expect to do more training in the event that we have additional people on the commission. And certainly as we do trainings for the council down the road, we'll have new members as well, and hopefully we can get some Planning Commission attendance at those trainings as well. In any event, I think the position statement that you have before you reflects what council was hoping to approve at this meeting, and so I'm putting that out there for your consideration, and if you choose to adopt it. I would remind you that you can take public comment on this. There was some public comment received during the general public participation session on this agenda item, but if you want to open it up for additional public comment, you certainly have that right. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Do I need to read the latest version?
Or I can read whichever.
Okay.
We can. It's in the published agenda, so if anybody looked at the agenda, they would see it there. But it certainly would be appropriate if you read it tonight.
Okay, well, I'll read the statement, and and then if we have any discussion, and then we or make a motion. At the regular city council meeting on February 27, 2024, a concern was raised during the public comment sections that 2 members of the council allegedly had violated some rules governing quasi-judicial matters in relation to a rezoning request this past year. We wish to thank the member of the public who brought this issue to our attention, since we collectively were not aware of the issue prior to then. We as a council wish to reaffirm our commitment to the rule of law, strict adherence to the provisions contained in state statutes, our city charter, and other applicable laws, as well as fundamental fairness to all. We are concerned to hear about any violations of our rules by one or more individual members, since collectively the city council and staff have strived so hard to earn back the public trust that we lost in the previous years, and we fully recognize there is a constant need to continue to earn that trust. We therefore are not only recommitting to strict adherence to governing laws in all matters, and have taken steps to arrange for additional training for the council and the Planning and Zoning Commission on the roles and duties of council and commission members, so that we all can be better informed to handle quasi-judicial hearings and related matters when land use applications appear in the future, to minimize the possibility of future violations of the rules surrounding quasi-judicial hearings. We have asked that city staff inform the council and the Planning and Zoning Commission at the earliest possible time of a pending matter that may result in a quasi-judicial review process. And I feel like we've taken proper action to address this issue, and I believe that we have the best intention and we have a good council that we can trust, so I'm ready to move on. All right, do we have a motion or any changes or questions?
I move that council adopt the position statement of the Cortez City Council regarding compliance with quasi-judicial hearing rules.
Second.
Motion made by Dobry and seconded by Yazzie.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Kiefhoffer.
Aye.
Rule.
Yes.
Dobry.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we're going to move on our agenda. 8 on our agenda is draft resolutions and ordinances. We have none tonight. So 9 is city attorney report.
No report, Madam Mayor.
Okay. We'll move on to 10 on our agenda, city manager report.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. I do have a report for you this evening. Number 1, the Cortez Community and Economic Development Department has been awarded the Community Business Preservation Program Grant through the Governor's Office and the Business of Funding and Incentives Office of the Economic Development and International Trade, which is goes by the acronym of OEDIT, for $179,000. Cortez was one of 11 communities funded out of 38 community applications. The 5 participating downtown local businesses are High Desert Life Outdoors, Love on a Hanger, Merriweather Home and Market, Nota Dene Trading Company, Turquoise Raven Art Gallery, and the Zoo Gallery, who were included in the grant, with each receiving a sum of money for physical improvements to their businesses. They all have strong family ties to Montezuma County and are committed to supporting local artisans and products. The Community and Economic Development Department spent many hours working closely with these businesses and their presentations to ensure that we met their needs. Their hard work translated into our local businesses receiving support and the funding. I'd also like to just mention, Mayor, that and credit highly Helen West of the Community and Economic Development Department, who is largely responsible for making this happen. Number 2, Pinnacle Assurance, who is our provider for workman's compensation insurance, has issued the City of Cortez a general dividend of $9,609 for the year 2022 due to our decrease in workplace safety accidents. Also, number 3, our We Are Water traveling exhibit through a partnership with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the University of Colorado has been installed at the Cortez Library and will be on exhibit through the end of July 2024, and we strongly encourage the public to attend and see this. This exhibit creates a place where all community members can experience, learn, share, and talk about what water means to them. This exhibit has 4 parts, each highlighting a different theme. 1, water and life. 2, water use and water rights. 3, water in the landscape. And 4, water in our community. Each piece of the exhibit also includes a hands-on activity and is presented in Navajo, Spanish, and English languages. That concludes my report this evening, Council.
Thank you, and congratulations to the Economic Development Department. Great job. Okay, so we'll move on to 11 on our agenda, the City Council Committee Reports. 11A is the Mayor's Report on the Workshop. We had the District Ranger, Nick Musto from the Dolores Ranger District, come and present to City Council about prescribed fire and their prescribed fire program. There's a prescribed fire program for long-term risk reduction, and it protects our water supply and our watershed. So their process is pretty lengthy and complex, and there's a lot of factors that go into deciding where they're gonna burn and when. And there's even processes day of. And then he presented what areas are potentially gonna be burned this year, and one of them is pretty close to the Boggy Draw trailhead or parking lot. So just kind of be aware of that, because they'll probably close that area when they do the prescribed fire there. And then recommendations for living with wildfire is air purifiers, close your windows, and they are subject to CDPHE on smoke. So they would have to end a prescribed fire if we got too much smoke above the threshold in our community. So, all right. And then Councilmember DeHaven shared with us the point in time count of the unhoused community in our community, and this year was one of their highest counts. Okay, one of the most concise counts. 124 unhoused people were surveyed during the 2023 point in time census. All right, and then we'll move on to, lost my page, other board reports, which is 11B. So we can start with Councilmember DeHaven. Okay. None?
This past week, I attended the Mesa Verde Country Board. We had our annual review for the director and worked on some procedure. And I'd just like to say thanks to Brian for the work that he does as the director of Mesa Verde Country.
Thanks. David, do you have a board report?
I just wanted to congratulate the art galleries in town, the locals, and receiving the grants. That's a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the last meeting, so I don't have a long list, but we appreciate all the work that's being done within the constituency of the committee.
Cool. Thank you, David. All right. Moving on to 11 or 12 on our agenda, other items of business, an executive session. So we do have an executive session tonight.
Madam Mayor, I move that City Council go into executive session for the purpose of 1, discussing the possible transfer or sale of real property owned by the city pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-4024A, and 2, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators concerning the possible transfer of sale of real property owned by the city pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-4024E.
Second.
Motion made by Dobry and seconded by Yazzie.
Dobry.
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
Rule.
Yes.
Buffer.
Aye.
Okay, we're gonna take like a 5.
Medina.
Oh, yes. All right. It is still March 26, 2024, and the time is 9:36 p.m. The executive session has concluded and the council has reconvened into open session. Those persons participating in the executive session were myself, Mayor Rachel Medina, City Council members Arlene Yazzie, Lydia DeHaven, Matthew Kiefhofer, Dennis Spruill, Robert Dobry, and David Rainey. Also present were City Manager Drew Sanders and City Attorney Patrick Coleman. No adoption of any proposed policy, position, resolution, rule, regulation, or formal action occurred during the executive session. If any member of council or a member of the public believes that the subject matter of the executive session was not statutorily authorized or that the discussions that occurred in the executive session strayed from the announced subject matter, please speak up now. Seeing none, we will now move on to agenda item number 13, public participation. Seeing no one in the audience from the public, we'll move on to 14 on our agenda, adjournment. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Motion made by Dobry, seconded by Yazzie.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
Spruill.
Yes.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Kiefhofer.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, thank you all for being here tonight.